All right, so we're officially now recording. This is part 2 of the virtual bootcamp series that we have been promoting. I know the last one, I got a lot of great feedback. It was on annuities. And today we're actually gonna dive into index universal life. So life insurance, that's just one type of a strategy leveraging a life insurance. So I'm gonna go ahead and dive into presentation mode. But even before we get into this presentation, again, if we've been getting a lot of great feedback, the whole point of this is that you're taking this information and that you're applying it into your business. So if you're still kind of on the fence or a little bit hesitant or still a little bit confused, need a little bit more help, let's help you set up some field training appointments. That's really where you're going to connect the dots in this business, and it's going to make a lot more sense once you see it live, because you could see it in a classroom or a virtual classroom like this, but there's nothing like actually seeing a family ask questions and you see how the trainer responds, how they answer their concerns, and how they take them by the hand and how we'll move forward in implementing the strategy. So there's nothing that can replace field training. I'm going to say this over and over, and you might get tired of it, but I'm going to continue saying it over and over. Even a year from now, 2 years from now, there is no substitution for good old-fashioned, hands-on training. I think that in 1 hour of field training, it's way more than 20, 30 hours of a classroom combined. So there's just no substitution. But nevertheless, this is where you can learn a lot of the details of the business that could boost your confidence, that could bring more clarity into the products and services that we render. So let me go into presentation mode. Let me actually open up this different, where's it at? Yeah, there it is. I'm gonna go ahead and open that. All right, so I'm gonna go into presentation mode. Really what I wanted to do a comparison on right now is, let me go back to the beginning. I've done this particular training on a video module on the Difference University, but I'm gonna go over it, walk through it slowly. I'm going to probably pause in certain sections and try to give a little bit more details than I did on the video that I created that's in the back office. I want to do a comparison between an index universal life and a 401k. But before I even go further than this one cover sheet, I want you to understand that they're two complete different animals. They're two different things. The IUL is a life insurance policy. So number one, there's got to be an insurable need. Does everybody need insurance? In my opinion, absolutely everybody needs a life policy. With the 401k, a 401k is a qualified retirement plan. It's a tax deferred type of a strategy, but 401ks are only offered with the company if for instance, if you work for a company and the company is offering a 401k plan. Not all 401ks are designed the same. Not all plan documents are the same. So we'll cover that a little bit, but I want to make a comparison. And the only reason I want to make a comparison is because in the IUL, most people are not familiar with it. They've never heard of it before. And they're thinking life insurance. I think, for the most part, most people think, well, life policy is going to be used for when I pass away, and that's going to be for my beneficiaries. But they don't see that as an asset. And so affluent people, they understand the value of a life contract and they see it as an asset. So it's not an expense. And it's totally, they leverage it differently. Now, a 401k, the reason why we're doing this comparison is because it's really familiar. If you work for a large corporation or a small company, if they offer the 401k, then it's something you've probably heard of before. You've heard of somebody saying, hey, I have a 401k, or they match me up to this point in a 401k. So for the most part, most people have somewhat of an idea, even if they don't understand the details of it. So this is leveraging what we call a LIRP strategy, a life insurance retirement plan strategy, and we're going to compare it or do a, versus a common tax deferred qualified savings plan, which is known as a 401k. So we're going to do that analogy the best that we can. So let's go ahead and go in. At the very end, what I also would like to do is I want to close out the meeting with running a case and showing you guys how to do an illustration, and that way, and open it up for questions, because it's really in the designing an IUL that's really important. It's not just about soliciting and selling an IUL and thinking, hey, if you could save $100, let's put you in an IUL. You want to design it around the person's needs and their goals. So we'll dive into that as we're going through the illustrations. I want to get you up to speed where you're very confident and you're proficient being able to create an illustration on the fly, meaning that when you're in front of a client or a potential client, you're able to actually create an IUL illustration and be able to change the numbers and adjust it and move it into a position and know how to design it where it's flexible enough for them to implement the strategy. So let's go ahead and move forward. So everybody wants to be comfortable. Let me move this down a little bit, but aren't playing to their advantage. And here's what I mean by this. Everybody wants a high rate of return. They want the lowest management cost for their assets. They don't want to lose, because who in the heck wants to lose? And yet everybody is forgetting about one thing, and especially during this time right now, everybody's thinking about the losses of their accounts. Is that true or not true? Give me a thumbs up, right? Everybody is so focused right now. And even myself yesterday, I was sharing with you guys, if you followed the annuity, or even on Saturday, the annuity course that we did as part of the bootcamp #1, we're focusing so much on protecting the losses. But the reality is one of the biggest killers when it comes to your investments or your retirement is going to be this one simple thing called taxes. Uncle Sam is our silent partner throughout our whole life. And so Uncle Sam and with taxes are going to be the biggest killer when it comes to your money. So why not have a strategy where you could reduce taxation? Inside of a 401k, I'm going to break it down and share with you how a 401k is not the best strategy if you're really trying to pay the least amount in taxes. You may be saving on it today, but on the back end, that's where people are in for a big surprise. And then through a life contract, I'm going to share with you the differences, right? Again, they're two different animals completely. They have their own IRS codes. They're completely different, but we're still going to do our best to do a comparison. So here's how taxes work, as we're preparing for this. Taxation, again, potentially the most powerful challenge facing your investments. You earn it, you get taxed. You spend it, you get taxed. Excuse me. You save it, you get taxed. When you die, you get taxed. So from birth to death, all the way through our life, we're going to be paying taxes. So how many of you guys feel that if you pay more taxes than your neighbor, somehow you're a better citizen? No, it doesn't make you a better citizen. I mean, I'm all for paying taxes. I believe in it. Obviously, we want to have nice roads, nice parks, public libraries, schools, etc. So we live in an amazing country because those taxes go to help fund the things that we like to enjoy. So taxes are very important. But if Uncle Sam is going to have his hand in your pot of money, you don't have to leave that hand in your pot of money for your entire life as you're growing it, as you're spending it. But most people have no clue about this. They just think that's the way it is. You're always going to pay taxes. Well, the wealthy, the affluent, they know ways to put their money in a position where you're going to minimize that. So in all it is, it's just moving money from one pocket to another pocket, and the rules completely change. And that's putting money into the strategy I'm going to share with you right now. But before that, I want to set the stage even more grand. This is right here a snapshot of the United States, where you look at every single state that makes up the United States. If you look at the maximum income per state, you could really start to look at the numbers. Which one pay the most taxes? California, if you're in California right now, we're at 13.3% just for state taxes, right? You look at, gosh, I'm going to move this aside a little bit. Florida is a state that doesn't have it. Texas doesn't have the state taxes. The red ones don't have state taxes. But everywhere else, you're going to have New York is up there too, right? What is New York at? 8.82. So it looks like California is probably the highest. And even Minnesota is at 9.85. Either way, what I'm trying to share with you, depending on what state you're in, not only are you going to be subject to federal taxes, which federal and everyone has to pay, but then you also have state taxes. So we're paying for that beautiful sunny weather, California. For those of you that are here, those of you in Arizona, you're still paying 4.54. But here's where it gets really, really interesting. Now let's talk about federal tax margins. So historically, I mean, if you look from 1913, it was at 7%. At 1918, it was at 77%. Whoops, what happened here? You look at 1944, it was at 94%. What was going on during the 1940s, around 1944? What war? World War II. So think about that. I mean, we're right now in a crisis situation where possibly, I don't know, possibly I mean, right now the government is going to put like what, $2.5 trillion into the economy. Where do you think that money is coming from? It's being printed. Now, do you think that there might be a possibility that taxes might have to go up to have to somehow make up for all that? I mean, I'm going to jump ahead and I'm looking at history. The money's got to come from somewhere. So my opinion is, I think someone's saying something here in the chat box. Someone is saying, yep, we will have to pay for it. Yeah, I agree, Nia. We're going to have to pay for it. So 1944, 94%. You look at 1968, 75%. You look at 1971, 70%. This is not too far back, guys. 2000, now it's 39.6. 2010, 35%. 2013, 39.6. And now here we are close to, let me bring Carolina on. Now, 2019, 2020, we're at 37% or so. But let's look at the graph, because the graph, I'm a pictures guy. So if you look at a picture, it jumped up, right? It went up, and now we're at a low point. So if you just look at the last, I don't know, 20 years or so, 20, 30 years, do you think we're at a pretty low point when it comes historically to federal taxes? It is, right? So again, this is my personal belief, my opinion. We could potentially go back up again. So imagine now, for every dollar you make, you're having to pay 70 cents on every, or 70 cents on every dollar. And then you're talking also about state taxes. I mean, it could be a lot of money that could be going out in taxes. So the approximate average maximum rate is actually 59.1. And today we're like at 37, 39%, around there approximately. So every person I've ever asked that's going into retirement, if you ever ask them right now, if you just had this conversation with people, hey, do you want to have a tax-free retirement, or do you want to have a taxable retirement? Guess what everyone says? Tax-free. But chances are, if they're like most American families, guess where they have all their money, or majority of their money? They have it in a tax-deferred strategy. They have it in an IRA. They have it in a 401k. They have it in some type of deferred strategy, a pension. The reason why they have it there, guess why? Their tax accountant told them to put their money so they don't give Uncle Sam taxes today so they could save. How many people have you talked to, especially nowadays? Oh my God, I got to write a check out to taxes. Everyone's like, I have to write a check. Is there a way that I could reduce taxation? Now everyone's trying to reduce, but no one's thinking about their future self. In their future self, if you were looking back, you would probably be telling yourself right now, when you have the energy and you have the ability and you have the know-how, your working years, why not pay the taxes today so that you take care of your future self and can live tax-free in the future? But see, people aren't educating anybody about that. And people aren't showing these graphs. This is not being taught in school. I never took a class where they showed me this type of information. I wish I would have known this stuff. Very important. I think you would think a little bit different when it comes to where you're going to put your money, because I would say that all of us want to have security in the future. And this to me means that I might not have so much security if I'm mortgaging out my retirement to the future to some tax rate that I have no clue about. The best way that I heard it said was Patrick Kelly. He said, imagine right now you walked into a bank, and in the bank, you're looking for a mortgage, right? You're going to buy a house. The bank says, you're approved. I'm like, well, I haven't even told you how much I'm going to get approved for. Oh, I want $2 million. Well, you're approved anyways. But the only problem is this, or the only thing is this, we're approving you, and it's going to be for, say, 30 years. We just don't know what the rate's going to be, and we'll decide it in the future at whatever interest rate we just want it to be. Kind of like that, right? So how would you feel about that loan? Would you feel so secure about that type of a loan? Would you go into a mortgage not knowing what rate you're going to pay in the future, or you're not knowing the details of the terms? Not at all. It seemed like a bad loan. You're like, I'm going to get away from this. Yes, you approved me without even looking at my finances, without knowing nothing about me. You're telling me you're going to be whatever rate you want it to be. You wouldn't sign it. But that's that exact type of a deal here, especially when it comes to retirement. Tax deferred strategies, you're making a deal with the government saying, don't tax me now, tax me at whatever rate you want it to be in the future. And I have no absolute control over that. We don't. So I'm going to move forward with that. So why in the world, excuse me, would you want to compare a LERP type of a program, a life insurance retirement plan strategy, versus a 401k? Now, taxes is going to be the huge difference. Okay, so let's talk common sense. I just like to keep things very, very simple. If you were a farmer and if you had the choice to pay taxes on the seed or on the harvest, which would you rather prefer? On the seed or on the harvest? Very simple. I mean, this is the type of conversation you should be having with people that is pretty common sense and simple. Obviously, you would rather pay taxes on the seed. And the seed would be you paying on your dollars that you're putting in right now. Maybe you're putting $100, or maybe you're putting $500 or $1,000 a month. I mean, $1,000, yeah, a month into an IUL. But you know what you're paying on. You're paying on the seed. So as it's growing tax deferred. And when it grows to this nice, the harvest, it's completely tax free. That's the idea behind it. But again, most people they've never been shared that. So let's talk about the 3 different tax buckets that are happening. Now, I strongly believe that you need money in each area because there's a specific need for them. But let's go ahead and break it down. Just by, like, if you were to cover the bottom and you were just looking at the colors, is red usually a good color? It means usually stop, right? You look at blue seems pretty okay, right? You look at the bucket, it's not leaking as much as the red, but you look at the green is usually pretty good, right? And the bucket's completely full. So just from looking at the names, taxable bucket, tax deferred, or tax advantage, which one sounds better? Tax advantage. Okay, so again, without even diving into the details, people can say, wow, a little light bulb goes off. I think tax advantage sounds better. I kind of want to learn a little bit more about that. So let's look at taxable. Now, taxable is going to be money that you, like wages. So if you work for a company and you get a W-2, you've been taxed, right? In addition to that, let me click over here on the chat. I wish someone was on the chat to answer. The seed, okay. I was let's respond on that one. So interest income. So if you have for instance, if you're receiving interest off of a savings account and you're living on, or dividend income that you're getting from a stock and you're getting dividends every month, that's all reportable income. You got real estate income. You have to report income that you're getting from real estate properties as well. Of course, there's strategies to depreciate and all that, but it's still reportable income. You got short-term income. Say, for instance, you bought something and you sold it within a period of less than 12 months, or it's a short-term investments, mutual fund income as well, savings accounts. At the end of the year, have you ever received a love letter from Uncle Sam, a little 1099 form that says, hey, your savings account made X amount of money? Right? This is all that taxable zone. Now, when it comes to having the most advantages or sheltering your money or paying the least in taxes, the red zone is not the best one, excuse me, long term when it comes to taxes, because Uncle Sam has his hand in your pocket all the way through as you're accumulating, as you're building money in that category. The thing I like about this, if you have money in a savings account or some type of a short fund, that it's accessible easily. It's for the most part liquid. Real estate income is a little bit different, but I'm just talking about, let's say, a basic savings account. You have access to that money. So as far as an emergency account, you definitely need to have money here in the red zone, because that money needs to be accessible to you in case of an emergency. Now let's look at money in a tax deferred strategy. This is real estate growth. What does that mean? So let's just say you bought a piece of property, and even if you lived in it, but there's a certain set of rules that if you live in it for X amount of years and it's your primary residence, and you could defer, you don't pay taxes up to a certain point on the gains if you sell it. But let's just say you sold a home, earlier, let's say after a year you sold the home and it actually went up in value, right, in equity, and you earned a profit, then you're going to have to report that gain. Does that make sense? Because you only lived in it, say, for 6 months or a year. Individual stock growth. You could have a stock go up, and then when you go to sell it, guess what? If you sell it before 12 months, you're gonna have to pay short-term capital gains. If you sell it after 12 months, you're gonna still pay long-term capital gains. So when people are investing in the stock market and they're like, hey, I'm gonna make some money, I just made X amount of money and I'm gonna sell it, you gotta report those gains. So every time your money makes money or your investments make money, you're gonna have to report those. Then you have retirement plans like 401k. There's also 403Bs, 457, TSA plans, thrift savings plans, SEP IRAs, or all types of IRAs. There's simple IRAs, regular IRAs. There's even something called a tax deferred comp. Pretty much anything you're telling Uncle Sam, don't text me now, text me later in the future. Even pensions fall under this, traditional IRAs and annuities, depending on how the annuity is structured. So this one, if you look at the little circles, you're not paying taxes today. So yes, if you put $10,000 in a 401k or even into a SEP IRA, and you earned $100,000 this year, it looks like you actually earned 90 because you reduced today's reporting by whatever you saved in that tax deferred strategy. But what are you telling Uncle Sam? It's like, let me ask you, let me just share with you something that was shared with me that was kind of like, wow, this actually makes a lot of sense. And I'm gonna talk to you as a friend, as a brother. I'm gonna ask you guys right now, if you have a problem right now and you decide to not deal with that problem, and you're like, I just don't want to deal with that problem now, I'm just gonna push it out because I just don't want to deal with it. Does the problem tend to go away, get smaller, or get bigger? It gets bigger, right, Carolina? It gets bigger. And why is it that most people, they don't see this as a problem, but they're like, I don't want to deal with it now. But guess when you're going to deal with it? Later. You're going to deal with the harvest of it. Now you're going to be like, oh my God, all my money, I was saving a little bit today, but I was really prolonging that problem for the future. And that's really what's happening. And we have to be out there telling people and sharing with them the absolute truth of what people are doing. But yet, who's giving the advice? The CPA is looking like the hero because they're saving you on now. The tax person preparing your taxes is saving you money now. So they look like the hero because like everybody's like so caught up thinking about now. But in the future, the problem is going to be a lot bigger. So now let's look at the tax advantage area, which is the green zone. These are municipal bonds, which if you look at historicals and how they've done recently, they're not going to give you the best returns. In fact, there was a period of time in even 2008, 2009, where they're giving IOUs. I mean, if states are almost filing for bankruptcy and they're not doing well financially, you think that they're going to be, being able to deliver. And depending on what type of municipal bond you have, they might be taxable if you buy a municipal bond in a different state. So you got to really look at the fine print. Then there's Roth IRAs. Roth IRAs, these are going to be for people that actually don't make as much money. If you run across people that make over $200,000, or even as a single person that makes over $100,000 or over like 90,000, they can't even participate in an IRA or a Roth because they make too much money according to the government. And even if you're able to participate in them, you can't really build something substantially big because you're limited on the amount of money you could put in per year. Yeah, they give you a little catch-up rule of an extra $1,000 when you turn age 50 and above, but it's not really enough. Think about it. It's not that much money when you start working out the numbers. So, so you're limited there, and it's if you make under 100. Heidi, I saw that under 100,000. So here's the other area. It's cash accumulation inside of a life insurance contract, such as an index universal life. Now, it could be any policy. It could be a universal life. It could be a whole life. It could be a variable universal life. The reason I put index universal life is I strongly believe that the index universal life right now is the best one today that can give you the most upside potential, and it gives you the most flexibility, and you could actually get the most value out of your money is inside of one of these index universal lives. So I'm going to continue on with this. Hopefully you guys are following along. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you guys are following along. Yeah. Awesome. Let me go ahead and move forward. So let's talk about some basics here when it comes to the 401k IRS. If you were to go to the website, I'm not gonna tell you that this is like a good bedtime story or book to read every night, but you'd be surprised. Going to the irs.gov website and type in qualified plans, and it's gonna list out every type of qualified plan available, period. And they actually do a good job breaking it down. I would challenge you all to go through, and if you're like, man, how do 401ks work? Let me read a little bit about it. What is a 403B? Let me read it. And they do a good job of actually breaking down, showing the limits, how much you can contribute, and how they work. So here's some of the 401k basics, and I got this directly from the IRS website. But again, this was 2019. Actually 2020, the contribution remained the same in 2020. So this hasn't changed, but verify these numbers if you would like for accuracy. So here, someone who is less than 50 years of age is going to be putting up, you could put up to $19,000 a year into a 401k. If you, everybody, if you could make sure you're muted, because I could hear somebody's sound in the background, but I can't tell who it is. You just gotta make sure you're muted. So there's a catch-up contribution for people that are age 50 and older. So now you could actually put an additional $6,000 into this plan, which makes it $25,000 per year. So I see this a lot with a lot of clients that are a little bit, you know, they're in their 50s. They're trying to max out their account because they didn't start saving until a little bit later. So account growth, gross tax deferred, the gains are not taxed during the year, which is great. That's a positive thing. And if you withdraw early, let me try to mute somebody. I don't know who it is. I don't know how to do mute all from here. Hold on one second. Let me go back. Somebody. Hold on a second. I gotta mute everybody here. Trying to see who it is. I'm gonna pick on the person. Everybody now muted themselves. You made me get out of presentation. It was probably me. Okay, let's go back into presentation mode. Thank you, whoever muted. Someone eavesdropping in. All right, here it is. Okay. Perfect. So let me go ahead and continue on. So the other thing too is that there's an early withdrawal penalty of 10% if you touch the money before 59.5. In other words, if you withdraw from it. In addition, you can actually access only without penalty for a qualified hardship inside of these 401k plans. You'll find some cases, on a side note, where there's some plans that will offer what's called an in-service non-hardship withdrawal, but I haven't yet run across a lot of those. It's pretty rare that the plan document. So here's what a plan document is, just for you to be aware of. So this is a little side note. So the plan document it's the contract of the details that are drafted for between the provider and the employer. So the employer is saying, hey, here's all the rules that are laid out. We're gonna allow you to do a non-hardship, withdrawal within our plan document. But do you think it's to the best interest of the provider, if it's Fidelity, for them to write a plan document to state that they can move their money wherever they want? No, they want to keep them there, right? So they usually don't write it up that way. But in some cases, you'll find that they have done it that way because the employer doesn't want to be responsible or get sued by employees not allowing them to move their money. There's a required minimum distribution. Actually, this is a new rule that's changed. So this needs to be updated, as it's actually, what is it? 72. It's now 72 years of age. So you could actually continue to defer your account up to age 72. Before, in 2019, it was up to 70.5. But let's just say you reach now age 72, you're required to start to take out money out of these accounts. Why? Because Uncle Sam wants his taxes. That money that's sitting there in these accounts haven't been taxed. So if you go to the IRS website, you're gonna find that it's now 72 years of age. I think the only one that's a little bit different that I learned about last year that was, after all these years, it was the 403B plan. If the teacher is still working and he or she is 72 or 73 and they're still putting into a 403B, they can still continue deferring, which is a pretty unique situation. But I don't know many teachers that are in their 70s that are still working, but there could possibly be some. What's that? One or two, right? Now, here's some IUL basics. So it's a long list of basic stuff here. So there's financial protection when you put your money in there. There is flexibility. So let's just say that you want to send a little bit more money, you could. If you want to skip a month, depending on how you funded it, you could skip a month. If you want to adjust it. So there's a lot of flexibility within it. There's tax deferred growth. So as the money's inside of the account, it's growing tax deferred. There's no capital gains depending on how you withdraw from it if you're taking out as a loan, but then you won't have the gains if you do it right. There is no market risk. So there's a zero, at minimum, there is a zero floor factor, meaning that if the S&P went, as an example of an index strategy, if it went -1 this year, at minimum, your principal is protected, so you'll get 0 as the floor. Potential market-like returns, depending on the index strategy that you choose. There's also, if you look at, for instance, you can fund more money than a 401k. I have some clients that are putting $100,000 a year into an IUL, which is Pretty awesome, right? For them, they're only funding it, say, for 5 years. I have some that are putting a little bit less than that. Either way, you can make them very large to even just $100 a month to even having a baby app of $25 a month, in where it still works, you know? So it all depends on how you structure it and who you're setting it up for. Access to the money before 59 and a half, so it doesn't follow that rule. So I have some young clients right now that I'm working with. Gentleman makes a couple $100,000 a year. He's 32 years old. His fiance is a pharmacist, and they're saving all her money, but he wants to retire by 45. I said, okay, well, how much money do you want to have at 45? He's like, well, can I do it with this plan? I said, you could absolutely do it. You just let me know exactly how much you want to have at 45, but you need to also fund it to reach that at 45. So so you could design it, and it's all about how you design and fund it. There is no RMDs. So the money's already, you've paid the taxes on the seed. So it definitely doesn't have this RMD factor in there. Income tax-free income. So when you start to take income from it, when you're taking it in a form of loan, it's going to be completely going to be tax-free. It can help you also when you strategize to help your children go to college. The thing that's pretty beautiful about this is when you fill out the FAFSA form, it doesn't fall under the FAFSA form where you're required to show that as an asset that could count against them if they're trying to get grants or aid for the child. So it's a great strategy to be able to leverage one of these plans. Fund completion is guaranteed to survival spouse. Lifetime income tax-free. Depending on which company you use, there's a couple companies that will offer you, once you turn on income, that it's guaranteed contractually lifetime income. You never have to put another penny, and you're gonna have income for the rest of your life tax-free. Life insurance death benefit. It's the only place under Internal Revenue Code 101A where when you put money into this life plan, that when the person passes away, the beneficiary gets, the death benefit all completely tax-free. The under 7702, which is known as a private plan, this actually allows you to have that savings component inside of a life plan, which allows you to lend yourself money. I mean, you have all this flexibility as you start to really dive into the details of that. Accelerated living benefits. As you know, most of the companies now are offering living benefits. I'm a huge promoter of NLG because NLG has been doing it the longest, and they offer terminal, chronic, critical, or critical illness. They have all that as part of their accelerated living benefits at no extra cost. The only time you're going to pay for it is when you actually use it. There is no loan limits or repayment requirements. So I've had people ask me, well, if I take out a loan, do I have to pay it right back? Well, I would suggest you pay it back, but if you don't pay it right back, guess what happens? If you have an outstanding loan of $10,000 and you have $50,000 in savings and you have a $100,000 policy as an example, if you set it up where the beneficiaries get both, then what they do is they're going to say, okay, let's subtract the 10,000. Let's give the remaining 40,000 to your beneficiaries plus the 100,000. You guys get that? So they just pretty much subtract the outstanding loan plus whatever interest it accumulated. So awesome, awesome. So just on this list alone, isn't there so much more benefits already? Now, there's a lot to it, a lot of great things. So what if, I'm going to move this down because this keeps tending to, wait, I almost forgot to mention some of the 401k hidden fees. So let me dive into that. So this is a little setback to the 401ks. So this is an article that you could actually download. It's actually, and I remember when this first came out in 2005, it's from Time Magazine, The Great Retirement Ripoff. Millions of Americans who think there will be who will retire with benefits are in for a nasty surprise. How corporations are pickpocketing people with the help of Congress. Now, the truth be told is that the 401k was never intended to be a retirement plan. So I could dive all into this, but in the 70s, you know who created this plan? Executives that were getting these fat bonuses. So they wanted to have a plan to be able to put money in to defer some of the taxes that they were going to have to pay, and therefore the 401k plan was created. So when you start to dive into the history, you start to really understand that what companies actually leverage now as a 401k plan, they no longer have to offer the pensions like they used to. So a lot of things involved. Now people are starting to find out that, hey, wait a minute, the 401k now puts on all the responsibility on the employee to have to manage their own account and to have to save into their own account. You see that? So 401k fees, this is one of the biggest killers inside of these 401k plans, is there's so many hidden fees that don't have to be disclosed to the employees. a few years back, actually, they had to disclose to the employers some of the fees that they were charging, but never was it really exposed or shared with the employees. So there's still all these embedded fees that are very difficult to find, but they're inside that really are going to take a big, I mean, it's going to really devour a lot of these, the retirement savings. In fact, you could look this up in a lot of different places, but it could amount to over 2% to even half of your retirement savings just in fees. Oh, do you have any questions on this? Let me stop this for a second. I don't know, I hit everybody here. Here it is. Let me stop the share real quick for a second. And let me move this over. Technology. All right. Just to kind of get everyone, anyone have questions? I couldn't, what's that?
I don't know if they can raise hands or anything.
If you raise your hand, I could unmute you. No questions?
Does it make sense?
Make sense? Okay, let's continue. I hope this is not like a bedtime story for you guys. All right, so let's continue. Let me go ahead and share. Julian just wanted me to ask you guys.
That's right.
See if you could check in and get a pulse on everybody. Pulse. Check the pulse. So let's go ahead and move forward. So let's look at some numbers. Now, when you look at index strategies, and this is very similar to annuities, where the annuities have this type of a strategy. And this is where for instance, you only participate with the upside. So if you look from here, day one, if you have $100,000 in this type of a strategy, when the market goes down, you don't participate, but you actually get a zero, which is pretty awesome. So the red is in the market and the blue is only participating with the upswings, only up to a 12% cap. Now the cap rates have dropped now from the time when I created this. The cap rates are now, some of them are 10%, some are 9%, 7%. Either way though, when you make a comparison as to the reality of people just riding that roller coaster, the numbers still end up being better that you only participate with the positives and eliminate all the negatives. You see, it's the losses in addition to taxes, it's in particular the losses that are really also a killer when it comes to your money. Heidi's yours at 12. Yeah, so for people that depending on when you open it, like the newer ones are at a lower cap. So even right now, in the state of the economy that we're in right now, where the market's really volatile, I would get with urgency in front of people and get people to lock in the current rates because they will adjust again. So very, very important. So thank you for sharing that, Heidi. Now, life insurance as an asset class. So New York Times, wrote an article, this is in 2011, it says tax-free life insurance, an untapped investment for the affluent. An insider secret for the affluent, a legal way to invest without taxes on the gains. The Wall Street Journal says, shaken by the market, investors look for a whole solution through insurance. This is 2011. In fact, even as you start to really look at this further and do your research, banks even invest into life contracts because they're the most secure place that you can invest. So who are the largest purchasers of permanent life insurance in the world? Major banks, Fortune 500 companies, and again, the affluent. So what's that? Not the 98%, right? So what we do is pretty unique that we're able to take this type of information to everyday people and are able to help them, educate them, and get them also saving in a strategy that the affluent have been participating in for years. So I love that we're able to do that. Now there's the 4 phases to retirement. This one's going to be pretty cool because it's going to really paint the picture really nicely. So you have 4 phases. You got the contribution phase, you have the accumulation phase, then you have the withdrawal phase, and then you have the transfer phase, right? When you pass or when you're gone. So again, contribution, as you're contributing into the plan, as it's growing, which is accumulating, as you're withdrawing from it, and then as you transfer. So keep that in mind. So in a tax deferred plan, like any 401k, IRAs, SEPs, simples, or pensions, here's what happens. You're tax favored, right? When you're contributing. So notice it's green. You're not paying taxes today. So everybody's like, oh, max out your 401k, max out your IRAs. Why? So you don't pay taxes today. So it's tax favored. Now let's look at what's next. As you're accumulating, guess what? It's growing tax deferred, but it's tax favored. But when you withdraw from it, you're in for a huge nasty surprise. You're going to pay what's called ordinary income taxes. So whatever you withdraw, that's what you're gonna have to report. So people always tell me, well, when I go to retire, don't I need less money? I'm like, I don't know. Anybody that I've ever asked, do you want exactly what you earn today when you go to retire? They're like, no, I want more. But let's just say you do won't get 100%. Well, you need to have quite a bit of money saved up so that you could be able to have that lifestyle. But usually, you have a question?
Yeah, and also there's inflation.
Exactly.
So by the time you retire, you know, the money's not going to be worth what it's worth right now.
So I hope you caught that. So inflation is actually another factor you got to consider, is that it's going to, you know, inflation, taxes. Yeah. So it's taxed on the withdrawal. When it's transferred, guess what? It's also taxed when it's transferred. When you leave it to, at one point, your beneficiaries, even if they inherit it and they put into inherited IRA, they're now actually being forced within a 5-year period to have to take out that money, no matter what, from the point that they get it. So they're gonna get taxed either way. So now look at the little skinny little piggy bank, really tiny. Now let's go into the next phase. Let's go into the index universal life, the LURP strategy. If structured right, if funded right. So you're putting, again, you're paying taxes on the seed, remember that. So it's after tax dollars that are going in. But as it's accumulating, it's tax favored because it's growing tax deferred. When you withdraw from it, it's tax favored because it's tax-free money. When it's transferred onto your beneficiaries, guess what? Completely tax-free death benefit. Now, where does it look better? I mean, look at the red zones. There's only one small red zone in the beginning. You're paying taxes today. You know exactly what the rate is today. You know that right now you're working and you're saving money. You know exactly what you're paying into. It's getting all this favorable accumulation. Withdrawals are favorable. The transfer is favorable. So obviously you're going to have a nicer nest egg to be able to transfer in the future. That's part of your legacy. So does this illustration, let me go ahead and open this up a little bit. This is something new for me. I'm going to do it this way. There it is. Does this illustration help? Pretty helpful, right? I mean, I like to use common sense because this it clearly illustrates, you know, the story that we're trying to share with people. Yes, Heidi, thank you for participating. There's only one student right now, Heidi, really participating. I appreciate that. Oh, and I see a thumbs up down there. I see Susanna. Oh, I see Carolina. I see Diane's hand point out. Thank you. Just checking faults. All right, so let's continue. So does it make more sense to have defer taxes to possibly pay more in the future? It doesn't, right? So does your current life insurance plan or 401k plan do this? Let me share with you this. Does it have accelerated living benefits at no additional premium? So even with somebody, when they say, oh yeah, I have a life plan, I think it's like that. Don't take their word to be truth, because a lot of the times over the years, what I've seen is when someone says they think they have it or they have something like that, chances are they probably don't. Sometimes when I look at their life policies or the contracts in front of them for the first time, I'm like, exactly what you were describing earlier is not what you have. Let me show you in black and white what you do have. They're like, oh, I thought I was buying the other plan. I thought I had the other plan. And they could have a life plan for years and I have no idea that they actually got the cheaper plan or they got the wrong plan. So that ends up happening. So does your plan do this? Does it protect against critical illness or critical injury in case of something like a heart attack, a stroke? Heidi, it's very important that all coworkers that I've talked to save in their 401k and they don't even have any of the other buckets. That's so true. A lot of people that even your coworkers or who you work with, they only, again, are only participating, if that, in one type of a strategy. So does your current plan have protection against heart attack, stroke, cancer, major organ transplant, blindness, Lou Gehrig's disease, end-stage renal failure, head trauma? I mean, there's this long list. I mean, no one wants to talk about this or think about this, but it's the reality of life, right? So these plans actually help you with that. Chronic illness, that means that if you couldn't do 2 out of the 6 living activities or if you're cognitive impaired, then it could actually kick in a monthly income. And also lifetime income, right? Guaranteed for the rest of your life. So very, very important. This is the one that I'm describing to you right now is NLG's. That's the one that really has all this put into one plan. So what if the unexpected occurs? I love this example here because, again, it's just about painting the picture so that you could, you know, understand it in terms where it's, you know, a story. So assuming you have $100,000 in a 401k or IRA. So let's compare an average qualified plan, which is your 401k or IRA, versus an IUL alternative or the LERP program. If the market drops 50%, and this is kind of a scenario that's happening right now, it happened in 2008. If the market drops 50%, you only have $50,000 left in your 401k. How many of you guys saw or witnessed, or maybe you yourself lost quite a bit of money during 2008? Or even right now, you know people that are already losing a big chunk of money. One of my friends has lost over $400,000 in his stock account itself, probably even 500. He's probably not even admitting it's probably over 500,000. So now real estate value drops 30%. That's the next topic right now that people are talking about. What's going to happen to the housing market? I just got off the phone with a friend earlier, and she's saying she can't even lock in people on rates because the rates are jumping all over the place. And the rates that she was offering 2 weeks ago, like at 2.6, 2.75, even in the low threes, are now up at 4.5, and they're just all over the place, right? So imagine real estate drops by 30%. And let's just say that you need $30,000 for income. So you're like, I need to tap into $30,000. I really need them. So if your account, your 401k went down by 50,000 because it dropped 50%, your home went down in value, and you need $30,000. So let's just say that you have to tap into your 401k. So in order for you to get $30,000 out of your 401k, you have to take out 45,000 before taxes. Does that make sense? So that means that at a 33 and actually this is a very low rate, but at 33.3% tax rate, that's $15,000. You're actually now left with $5,000 in your 401k. You see that? Not to count the 10% penalty, which is $4,500. So you're actually left with $500 in your 401k. Pretty crazy, right? So $500 left before state penalty. Whoops. So at the end of the year, when you go to report taxes, the other thing that's not even in here, are you going to report, let's just say you earned $50,000 in income this year, and you took out these you took out 45,000. Now it looks to Uncle Sam like you made 95,000. So there might be a chance that you might actually have to end up owing more money because now you're at a higher tax bracket. You see that? So now let's look at the IUL. In the IUL, the market drops 50%. Guess what you still have inside of the IUL? You still have $100,000. The real estate drops 30%. Okay, it dropped 30%. You take out $30,000 in income, you're still left with $70,000 inside of your IUL. You pay zero taxes on that. You still got $70,000. No penalty because you don't have that early withdrawal penalty. You still got $70,000. So you still got $70,000 inside your account. And you have whatever, depending on how you design it, you can still have all the living benefits inside of that plan. So when you do a comparison, you have a question, Julian? I see you with that look. You know, great illustration. Thank you, Nia. It's a great, you start to look at this. I think this is the type of story that you should be sharing with people because people have no idea that these options are available. And that's my goal, is that I want you to build that conviction, that confidence. I want you to know that these are solutions that are life-changing, guys. How many of you have come across somebody who has been advised to cash out all their 401k to go buy a property because someone's trying to make them a sale? A lot of people, and it really, really drives me nuts, especially when you're working with the senior market. Let's say someone has $400,000 in their account, and some real estate person says, hey, you should take that money, withdraw it, and go buy a multiplex property. So if I had an example, for instance, of a client that needed $200,000 so they could put it into this multiplex building or housing. But in order to take out $200,000, guess what she had to do? She had to take out the $400,000 to get the $200,000. But then at the end of the year, she was going to report an income of $400,000. Where does that make sense? That sounds more like a real estate agent just trying to make a sale. That's what that sounds like, right? So it's nuts. But that's the type of advice or bad advice that's being given out there by people. So let's continue to move forward. So it's your choice. So here's the bottom line: that you could continue to be in the traditional, whatever you call traditional strategies. You could get a get well card. Hopefully somebody will send you one, because if you become ill, the 401k company is not even going to send you a get well card. They're not even going to care because it doesn't have living benefits in it. Or you could actually get a big check. God forbid you became critically ill, chronically ill. You could get a check, from your policy. So where can you get so much value, peace of mind? The first time I heard the NLG policy, this was 2011, this was mine, I got it right away that week. I got one from my wife, myself, my daughter, my parents, my brothers. I mean, I went crazy getting them all a policy, because what happens if you don't die and you live? Who's going to take care of you? Living benefits. Share that story, just the living benefits themselves. Someone has, I already have insurance. Oh, does your insurance do this? Though you might have the old insurance. The new insurances do this. So really important facts for you to consider. Your 401k is not going to do that. And maybe your current, especially when someone says, oh, I have insurance through work. Trust me, insurance through work does not do this. And most people, when they switch jobs or if they're being laid off right now, they need to control the things they need to control, like having a life insurance with them so they could take it with them wherever they go and not be dependent on their work.
Another thing on the group insurance, if they're not working and then they die while they're not working.
That's true.
So they need to look at
the fine print.
Or they're disabled, or they're working less than half the part-time, or they're working like less than full-time. So those are some of the things that, that they need to look into. But anyway.
So very important things, again, it's just about educating people so they can make the best decisions on what best fits them and their family. And that's what we do. So should we continue? Here's a couple more recommended books. So here it is. The Power of Zero by David McKnight. Go on YouTube and type in The Power of Zero. Listen to some of the audios. They're like 20 minutes. And he does a great job of really breaking down the power of an IUL. I really, really like the way he breaks it down. He shows the technical aspect of it in a very simple way as well. And then you have Patrick Kelly, who does it in a phenomenal job as well. He was the first person that I learned of. In fact, we did a training just recently as a group. We did in Irvine. And for those of you that didn't register, you missed out, because Patrick Kelly, as a surprise, came in and was one of the key speakers and trainers. We got a ton of nuggets from him. And even myself, that I've been doing this for a while, it's the little things that you get in between that really help you sharpen up the saw and make you a better professional or more of a professional. And then the book that I wrote, I'm in there. So mine's at the top. Go on Google, look at Carolina. Don't laugh, Carolina. So, I mean, the whole premise of this book, the reason I wrote it, when we first launched the company, was because, everybody wants you to invest in the market, but who's the people that are promoting that and why? Same thing, you got two different worlds. You got the insurance world, you got Wall Street, and they're constantly battling. And so in this book, I'm breaking down some common sense approaches, the rules that Wall Street wants you to play by. And so you pick it up. It's very simple. And let's continue on. Now I want to share with you guys an illustration, just to share with you guys one, at least for you guys to be able to follow. But at this point, is there any questions? Any questions from anybody from what I just went over? No? Okay, so let's go ahead. Let me go back to sharing. I forgot to answer this chat here. Carolina, it is crazy for me to see how people can lose their retirement so fast when they are trying to stay above water. That's so true. It's so true. I strongly believe that, especially the average American person that is working hard, trying to take care of their family, they're working almost, for the most part, most people are almost paycheck to paycheck. I don't believe anybody should lose a penny, especially if they don't have the time, training, or temperament, and they don't have the know-how on how to manage these portfolios. I mean, why not put them in strategies where, again, they could have peace of mind, that they could still get market-like returns, but with none of the negatives. So I really believe in the strategy. I'm a big investor into this strategy myself, so I practice what I preach. So now let me share with you guys. Let's go ahead and create an illustration. Go to National Life. We'll use them as the first example. So when you register on, if you're appointed, you go to Agents, log in. So over here on the left-hand side, you go to Illustrations. and I'm going to create a new one. Okay. California index basic. It's going to be the flex life. This is the one you're going to be choosing. Don't use nothing that says NL. The peak life is going to be for, you're not going to use that one either because that's for premium financing. So they would do that for you. So the only one you're going to use is going to be this top one. So let me use an example, John Doe. So I'm going to put as a male, let's say the male is 45. And let's put that he's in good health. So I'm just going to put he's the best health. Down here on this left-hand side, guys, you have, let me make this a little bit bigger. You have, pretty much you just follow it. The first part is the client information. You need to have their date of birth. So I'm assuming that this was the date of birth because sometimes with insurance policies, if you're 6 months into the year, they kick it forward. Some companies kick it forward and make them the next year. So instead of being 45, it'll be 46. I noticed that Allianz, it doesn't. Allianz will still hold it. But other carriers will push forward for the most part. That's like common practice. So the next thing is I want to look at the death benefit. And this is where you're going to do all the funding. And this is where you're going to design it. So always leave it at the default setting at the guideline premium test. You don't want it to MEC. This is called the modified endowment contracts. You want to avoid it. So you don't want to have that. I've never done one with where you're going to have it where it becomes a taxable event. So here, let's just say a client tells me, hey, Dago, you know what? I need a $1 million policy. Number one, obviously, if we didn't gather a fact finder and we're kind of asking questions and let's just say he earns $100,000 a year, $1 million policy sounds about right because you need to have, rule of thumb is you need to have at least 8 to 10 times your income at minimum. Typically, you could even go 10 to 15 times. But if you want a very simple method, am I even sharing? Yeah. If you want a very simple method on how to solve what the insurance need is, use what's called the dime method. So let me stop sharing here for a second. I'm gonna share with you guys something else. Whoops, wrong one here. Let me share the screen here. So here's the dime method, okay? So what's going on here? 1 second. Okay, this is not on. Okay. Okay, here it is. So let me show you what a dime method is. So D stands for debt. So if there's any liabilities, let's just say they owe, I don't know, $50,000 in credit cards. So then you want it to cover at least the $50,000 that they have in credit card debt. Income. So if the person earns, say, $50,000 a year, let's do 10 times the income. So that's 500,000. Okay, that's an example. Now, a mortgage, let's say they own a mortgage and they have a balance of say $200,000. So let's at least cover the $200,000 of the balance. If their kids, say they have 2 kids and they want them both to go to college and maybe the college that they're going to go to is going to cost them say $25,000 a year times 4, that's another $200,000. So now when you add this up, what does this look like? 450 plus that's 950. So $1 million might be the right number. So at least if God forbid that person passes away prematurely, the kids are able to go to college, the house is paid off, they at least he leaves at least 10 years of income so that the family is okay for those next years as they're, living their life, and that their debt is paid off. You see how that works? Very simple formula. It's called the dime method: debt, income, mortgage, and education. It's pretty simple, correct?
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys wrote that down. So let me go ahead and stop sharing this with you. I'm going to go to the next screen, back to the illustration. So going back here, let's just say he needs $1 million. Now, if you notice here, if I'm going to make it more cost efficient, if his primary focus is I'm going to accumulate money, I don't really care too much that if I pass away, my beneficiaries get both my cash and my death benefit. What I want to focus on more is building up my cash and then being able to take out more income for myself in the future. So the design of it would be level. But let's just say he wants to make sure that the beneficiaries get both. Then I'm going to put it what's called increasing. So option B. Let's say that by the time he turns 65, that's 20 years from now, I want it to change to level so he can maximize his income. That's why I put 20. You see that? Now, I'm going to go to the next little part of the page. See the little sections? That's the face amount section. I'm going to go now to premium. Now I want to know target is the right number. Anything around above target is actually what it's supposed to be, because if you look over here, there's a minimum amount that he needs to be putting into it based on his age and based on the death benefit. The right amount should be 16,800. Let me get my battery, guys, because my battery's about to go out on my computer. I guess it's sucking up a lot of juice. Okay, perfect. So if you look at the premium, let's say that he wants to do it monthly. I want to know how much monthly I need to put into this. I'm gonna go monthly and I'm gonna leave it at target, at least on that, okay? So I'm gonna go months from 1 through M. Hopefully you guys are following me on this. You almost have to practice on yourself, like if you're writing a policy on yourself, on your children, on your brother and your sister, run a bunch of them so you can get familiar with it. Play with the numbers. So what if I put this much for myself? What if I had this? That's the way I did it when I was learning a lot, and I was doing a ton through field training, but you have to play with it. You can't mess it up. It's the software that's online. So I'm gonna go 1 through, let's say for 20 years, because he wants to retire at 65. You see that? So he's gonna fund it for that long. Now, I want to take a distribution. A 1035 exchange is that if we're replacing another policy and money's coming from another policy into this one. So for this, in this case, I'm not replacing nothing. I'm going to put none. But if there was something, then I'm going to put that it's an external. It's coming from a different company, or if it's going to be an internal replacement. I'm just going to go none. For distribution, I'm going to put lifetime income. So it's going to automatically preset itself to start from years 21 through infinite, right, to M, to maturity of this for his whole life. I'm not gonna change anything on this. Excuse me. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to quick view. So I just really dealt with those 2 pages, the first top 2. So here for $1 million policy, based on his age of 45 and a great health, he needs to put away $1,400.83 a month. And he does that actually for 20 years. And then at age 65, he's able to get approximately $24,544. So imagine this. Imagine that actually he was putting 16. What happened here? Why is there more money on this last year? Well, anyways, just follow me with this for now. So 24,540. So he's getting back more money than he was actually putting into it per year to have this benefit. So if I move over, let me minimize this. I don't see you guys there. If you notice, because I put increasing, year 1, he's 45, he put in $16,000. But now the value that first year is $11,265. In the first year, he doesn't have the ability to cancel it or move it because he'll lose that $11,000 because the surrender value is 0. But if he passes away, the beneficiaries get both the $1 million coverage and the $11,000. You guys following along? Awesome. So notice this though. This is where I want you guys to see this. On the 10th year, it's actually after the 10th year. It's dollar for dollar. 166,548. He has 106,548. Why? Because there's a 10-year surrender period on these. You see that? But all this money that's accumulated here, if he was to cancel it or decides to move somewhere else, the surrender value is what he'll be able to take, he or she, especially in this example. But if he passes, let's say he passes away at on year 12, he's got 191,591. Guess what? The death benefit of $1 million plus that is what the beneficiaries get. So now going over here, imagine now he's getting back. He was putting in 16,810 a year, but now he's going to get 24,540 for the rest of his life. You see that? He or she. If you look at this column here, it's because on the loan, it's growing over here. It's because it's accumulating interest on it. But that's not going to matter because when the person passes away, let's say they pass away at age 85, life expectancy, then he's got 917,000 in there, but he was taking out all this money. So when you do the math, I'm sure it works out. I'll show you guys on the report. but the beneficiaries still get $402,000 tax-free. Pretty awesome, right?
It is.
So this is that illustration. So the way that you create the report, guys, is you click here where it says report. I'm going to go to the Flex Live. I'm going to go to run the report. It's going to pop. I'm going to stop sharing the screen because it's going to do another, it's going to produce another screen. So I'm going to have to go back to that one. Where is it at? It's this one. So now here's a report. You see that? What was that? So here, this policy, this actual illustration is pretty nice because it sells itself. I always walk people through this little pie chart here where it shows, hey, look, if this policy would take care of you if you die too soon, that means your family's going to be made whole. In this case, the way we designed it, not only are they going to get the death benefit of $1 million, but also all the cash you've accumulated, all completely tax-free. If you become ill, this policy is also going to take care of you if you became terminally ill, chronically ill, critically ill, critically injured. Those policies are going to take care of you. I'll dive into details in a minute. In addition to that, if you live a long life on the positive side, then you get to take money from it completely tax-free. In fact, potentially more than what you're putting in per year for the rest of your life, and you're still going to have the benefits. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward, and I'm going to share with you now it's got summaries of the actual policy. It breaks it down. If you were to die tomorrow, like all of a sudden you opened it up, boom, your beneficiaries get $1 million. The day that you opened it up, the next day you pass away, they get $1,919,000. If you need cash at age 69, at age 74, I mean, it's showing the accumulation phase. If you become ill, this is an example at age 65. I mean, this does a phenomenal job of just illustrating. You could dive into this more. I'm not going to do it for the time of today's training, but go through the illustration. It's a beautifully done illustration that really paints the picture and the value of this type of a policy. So I'm going to close this because I want to show you one more illustration before we finish off. What time is it now? I'm going to show you one more illustration so you could do kind of have an idea of a comparison. So for me, in my opinion, NLG is pound for pound. You're going to get a lot of value. It's kind of like if you're going to buy a car, this is going to be your total luxury, all the bells and whistles, all the safety features, the different, side bags, the front bags. I mean, you're going to feel very confident, comfortable that it's going to take care of you and it's going to get you there safely. And if you need to punch it, it's also going to punch. It's got a lot of it, a lot all for your money. But now I'm going to share with you guys a muscle car. And the reason I call it a muscle car because their focus is more on the accumulation side. So I'm going to share with you Allianz. Now, the thing that we've gotten spoiled with NLG is that their underwriting process is phenomenal. It's pretty streamlined. It's really fast. Julian has gotten people approved in less than 24 hours and they've gone to issue in less than 24 hours. Sometimes it could scare a client because like, whoa, I got approved so fast. But with Allianz, it's more of a traditional. It's still going to go through a very thorough, very slow process, robust process where it takes 3 weeks to even potentially up to 6 weeks, depending on the history that they have medically. But it'll take a little bit longer. I had one case go through in 3 weeks, but it still took a little bit longer just to get it all the way full through commissions and all that. So it took about a month. And that was more of my faster one. So just to give you a heads up on that. But it's worth the wait, but just understand, and I'm setting the expectation on how it is. Most carriers, do take a little bit slower. But I want to share with you this because, let me go back into the sharing mode. Am I even sharing?
You know what you can do with that one?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know you always share like specific, but if you put screen share, they can see everything that is on your screen.
Oh,
and you don't have to be like
jumping back and forth. Okay, perfect.
And they'll see everything.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. That's better. So I'm gonna go to Illustrator. As I logged in, I'll go start illustration, and you're gonna notice the illustrations are pretty much the same. They have little details that are a little bit different. I'm gonna create a new one. I'm gonna do the exact same thing. California Universal Life. This one's called. It only gives you one example, so it's the Life Pro. Oh, this one actually, I'm going to do screen share like you said because it's not working.
Go to screen share.
There it goes. Perfect.
Now they can see all of that.
Okay. Awesome. Whoa.
That's what they're seeing too.
Okay, here it is. So now, someone said something, chat. You go, Julian. That's true. His Zoom skills. So I'm gonna go John Doe. Whoops. I'm a male. It's also 45. Oh, same thing, same date. Look, it's already default. I think it's the same software company that creates the illustrations. I think it's called iPipeline. So I'm gonna put here the best, like if they got the best rating. Death benefit, same thing. Look, it's the same, pretty much similar. Guideline premium, term rider none. I'm gonna put $1 million right here, and I'm also gonna put increasing from to age. Whoops, to age. This one you do a little bit differently. You go from age 6 to age 64. So that at age 65 it goes level. Age 65, you see that? So it's gonna go increasing, and then it's gonna change to level. So I could compare apples to apple. The other thing too is they're gonna put in monthly into this account, monthly, and I'm gonna put specified, I'm gonna put target. So they're gonna put the target, which is approximately the same, which is kind of cool. I'm gonna put disbursement of put income stream. I'm gonna do on the back end, they're gonna go into an index type of a loan. So it's gonna be more of a variable. And this is gonna be years, age, say 65 to M. Hopefully you guys are catching this. Hopefully you guys are seeing this. So here's what I did. Same thing. I walked through. First, I put $1 million. I put here the death benefit going from increasing to level. I also put that I want to solve for the monthly target. If you notice over here on the side, it always gives you the summary. You got the minimum. This is the minimum amount to keep this account open, which I would never do the minimum because it's only guaranteed for a short period of time. 7 pay, that means that if you could front load this and fund it in 7 years. So you could put up to $43,000 and only fund it in 7 years and never put another dollar, and it would sustain itself for the rest of to maturity. Initial, you could do like a lump sum. This is the initial, this is a guideline annual premium. So you could continue to put every year up to 42,000 all the way up till you retire, and you're still good. You stay within those. See how much you could put way more money into these? In addition, you could put a lump sum of $183,000 and have it go through maturity. So like you're buying it all up front, or you could do the target and put in monthly or yearly. So let's go ahead and go into a quick view. So here's what's on. Let me change the dates. I got these a little backwards for the funding part. I'm gonna make it to age here, age 64. That'll be the last year they put money into it. And, I'm sorry, whoops, this was age 60, yeah, 64. And they're gonna put this to age 63. Let's see if I got this down right. Yep, here it goes. So now check this out. So it's a little bit less per month. The other one was 1,400. This is 1,361 and 58 cents. So notice the other one, you're only putting into it for 19 years on the 20th year, which is at age 65. Now you're taking out approximately $56,000. What was the other one?
24,000.
24,000. So let me stop for a second. I want to look at your guys' faces and see what you guys think about that. Pretty crazy, right? See how this one's more focused on the accumulation part? So the other thing for you to consider though, is that the living benefits in California are not yet offered on this plan. They're right now in the process of being approved. Once it gets approved, then they'll be they told us that they're going to be a part of the current IUL plans. But in other states, like I've written business, I wrote business in Oregon, and it was actually, they have the living benefits in Oregon. So pretty awesome though. So if you could have both, I can't wait for them to have the living benefits in California. But either way though, I've been running a ton of business with Allianz because just the ability for you to be able to have more options, to be able to build more, that's a pretty awesome income. And even when you look at the death benefit, it works the same way. If I did it as increasing, so if the first year the person has $11,000, which is pretty close to the other one, you have $1,011,000 and it starts to accumulate. This one does have though, it's a 15-year surrender period though. So it's not till the 15th year that's dollar for dollar. That's the only difference. So NLG has a 10-year, this one has a 15-year. So that's the difference. That's the difference there. But if you're going to keep it long term, you're not going to replace it. It's not going to really make a difference with that.
So a good option, I'm thinking, for those that want maximum cash value, because, like for me, if it's not in contract, even if in the future, we don't know about the future. So one of the things that could be done is you can get a term policy with National Life Group, at least for the next 20 years or 30 years, and get it kind of like inexpensive, you know, and have all the living benefits and that additional insurance, and then maximize this one. So you can do like a combo, and that's something that could also work out, you know, if this is something that you're interested.
Exactly. So yeah, so it was mentioned that you could do a combo of both. You don't have to just have one policy. You could have an NLG policy, term policy, and you could have a Allianz IUL. I mean, you could do a combo, have both. I personally have IUL with NLG and an IUL that I just opened up in January with Allianz. Like personally, I actually have three policies on myself. I have two on my wife as well, Allianz and also an NLG. Because my focus with the Allianz one is more on the accumulation side. That's how I'm leveraging it. Heidi, you said you can also borrow from it. You can also borrow, right? Also, if I get one, yeah, you could also borrow from it. And a year later, why don't you unmute yourself, Heidi, so you could ask me the question. I'm gonna unmute yourself so I could hear you with the question. I don't know how to unmute you. I think you have to. There it is. There it is. Heidi, what's the question?
If I purchase a policy now that doesn't have living benefits, but a year from now they activate the living benefits into the contract, would we be able to go back and activate those living benefits in the insurance, or it's only for the new policies that will be for that year?
No, it's actually going to be it's going to be a part of all the current policies. So that's from my understanding from when I've talked to them. They're also going to have them as part of the current policies.
So it wouldn't apply if I would get it this year, say?
Oh, no. During right now, when it's during the approval process in California, then you wouldn't have it right now. But not until it's approved in California, then they'll approve it on the current policies.
Oh, so it's only on the current policies, but not for whoever had purchased before?
No, yeah. Even if you purchased before. That's what I mean.
Oh, okay.
Once it's approved in California, even for the ones that purchased before, they're gonna put it on. They're gonna have the living benefits as part of the plan.
Okay. That answers my. Yeah.
I know that for NLG, when they came out with the critical injury, what we did is there was a form that we had to fill out. So we started calling all our clients and saying, hey, you want to let's meet so we can fill out this form so you could have this added benefit onto the policy. Does that make sense? So they might come out with something like that where we'll have to call our current client base and say, hey, look, they just added the living benefits. You fill out this form, then now it's going to be part of your policy.
My only concern.
Okay.
Like they ask questions to see.
More than likely, they are going to have questions. Like they'll look at the medicals.
Look at the medical.
Because if somebody was already like
terminally ill, they're not going to give it to you.
Or not terminally ill, but like
any of those conditions.
Like if they had a condition.
Yep.
So
anyways,
yeah, so that would
cash value.
Yeah, so it's great for cash value. That's why I personally have both, because I know exactly what I have with NLG and I know exactly what I have with Allianz. So for me, my personal is I'm focusing on the cash value accumulation part of the Allianz one, and I'm not so focused on the potential future living benefits. That's why I have my NLG one. Cool. All right, so yeah, so I wanted to share with you at least these two examples. I wanted to share with you a comparison of let me stop the sharing, of Allianz, not Allianz, but of a IUL versus a 401k, just to kind of see the differences. And I also wanted to share with you two of our flagship companies, and it kind of gets the gear spinning as to when would you use them. I would always show both because I want the client to be in control when they're going to choose what they feel is the best suit for them. Obviously, they're going to ask you your perspective. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if you give people two options or two or three, at least two options, then you're gonna come across more as a professional because you're actually not just trying to sell them one particular company or one product, So when you give them the choice and it's in their hands, and now they can make a decision on what best fits them. So with that, if anybody else has any questions? No? Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys being on. Hopefully you guys got a lot of value from today's training. This was part 2 of our virtual boot camp. There's going to be another one that we're going to have actually this Thursday at noon. So it's going to be the same channel, and we're going to announce it on the Facebook group, and we're going to send it via email. So make sure that you take the time, if you're able to, at 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, because we're going to keep it coming. We're just going to keep adding, you know, more and more training like this to really just equip you and help you build that confidence to go out there and help more and more families. So
You also want to tell them about some of the things that we're discussing.
yeah, in addition, we're revamping, excuse me, revamping the Difference University. Whoops, let me close this. We're revamping the Difference University, and we had a meeting today here at the office, and we're going to be also sharing with you guys some of the some video trainings are going to be a part of the Difference University, like online tools, how to use Loom, how to use a Soapbox, how to use Zoom, like even how to use this tool. Even myself, I'm kind of juggling through this tool, so I need to even fine tune a little bit better on that. But some of the product training we're going to do is today we just did IUL, which is NLG versus Allianz, the pros and cons. Also IUL versus 401k, how to create illustrations. We touched upon it a little bit, but we're going to do more, so that way you get more familiar with the illustrator. Alternative of choice, we're going to be sharing with you how to position and have alternative choice with your clients so that you can help them move forward with one of the products. How to gather a fact finder virtually, especially right now when you're meeting virtually with people. How do you fill in a fact finder with them? We're also going to do illustrations on all the annuities like Equitrust, F&G, NWL, NLG. We're going to have also training on the 403Bs and how, you know, which ones are the 403Bs that are currently being used for teachers and nonprofit. We're also going to go into some basics on SEP IRAs and simples for business owners, 401k basics, and how to push your business through underwriting, how to set the expectation with your clients, because it's not just about you pushing it through, but how do you set the expectation and communicate throughout the process so that you look like a pro when you're helping your clients. Very, very important. Because when you're brand new, I know how it is. You write that piece of business and you're crossing your fingers and you're running and you're hoping that somehow it hits magically. And then you're frustrated when it's been a month and we've been, you know, and the underwriter's has been waiting for something from you, but yet you've never followed through. So very important. And also there's going to be sales modules, learning the words, mastering what are the good and bad words, how to position, how to, you know, how to get people to move forward or help them move forward. So a lot of valuable stuff. We're really excited about it. So just stay tuned. We're just going to be constantly connecting with you guys and just providing as much valuable content that can help you build your business. With that being said, appreciate you guys being on. We'll see you guys on Thursday at 12 o'clock. You guys have a good night, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you, Dago.
Thank you. Thank you, Heidi. I see your baby right there.
She wanted to show you how much money she has.
Let me see.
Woo! That's cool.
That's awesome. You're doing good.
She was
You're doing
busy
really
cleaning
good.
the house so she can earn her money.
Sure, we could help her come clean my house. We'll give her some more money. All right, guys. You guys have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.